Stop scrolling. This isn't another video about chasing micro trends or optimizing your daily spending to save a few dollars. This is about a massive, tectonic shift happening right now in the bedrock of the American economy, and it's a financial threat that is already inside the walls of your home, affecting your rent, your car payment, and your credit card statement. It's a threat that the media, the banks, and the political establishment are desperately trying to keep quiet, pushing it to the periphery of the news cycle. The crisis isn't the single event you're worried about, like a stock market crash or a sudden rate hike. It's the quiet, corrosive pressure building up from below. It's happening again. We've seen this pattern before, but this time, the toxic debt isn't tied to subprime mortgages and housing. It's tied directly to you, the American consumer between the ages of 18 and 40. It's in the rising interest on the debt carried by the young professional in New York, the middle-income family in the Midwest, and the recent college graduate trying to start a life in California. It is a triple threat of toxic assets: student loans, credit card debt, and auto loans. Individually, these debts are a problem. Together, they are a bomb that is currently ticking under the foundation of American financial stability. This video is your alarm clock. By the end of this deep dive, you will know the exact, staggering figures the major news outlets are hiding, the 3 specific financial traps that are set to break the system, and the definitive 7-step smart dollar shield you need to build today to protect yourself, your family, and your future. This is not fear-mongering. This is a highly accurate financial forecast based on the ignored data. And the best part, you have the power to not only survive this looming crisis but to emerge from it on the other side stronger, wealthier, and finally, debt-free. Stay with me for the next 30+ minutes, because once you see the data, you'll realize why the silence is so deafening, and you'll know exactly what to do about it. 2. The 3 debt bombs, a deep dive into the ticking crisis. Let's pull back the curtain on the silent crisis and examine the sheer scale of the 3 debt bombs. We are focusing on the 18 to 40-year-old demographic because your collective balance sheet is the most leveraged, the most strained by recent inflation, and your financial behavior is what fuels this entire economic chain reaction. The 3 debt bombs are not the same, but they share a common fuse: unprecedented growth in a high-interest, high-inflation environment. They are a perfect storm of financial pressure being brought to bear on the average, striving American. Bomb number 1. The student loan mirage, the unpayable debt. The student loan mirage is the biggest and most politically protected of the 3 bombs. Student loan debt in the U.S. now stands at an utterly staggering figure of over $1.7 trillion. This isn't just a number, it's a monumental burden carried primarily by millennials and Gen Z who were told that higher education was the only path to a successful life. This narrative allowed colleges to recklessly increase tuition costs year after year, knowing that the federal government would back the loans, effectively giving them a blank check. This created a situation where the borrower, you, are now stuck with a non-dischargeable debt, meaning you can't get rid of it, even in personal bankruptcy, unlike credit card or most other debt. The situation reached a breaking point with the recent multi-year pause on payments. While this pause offered temporary relief, it also created a deadly psychological shift. Borrowers adjusted their budgets and lifestyles to a $0 monthly payment, only to have hundreds, sometimes over $1,000, suddenly demand re-entry into their monthly budget. The freeze and thaw effect is brutal, and the data is already showing the results. A massive percentage of borrowers are immediately falling delinquent. This is the quiet default. It's not hitting the news cycles as a catastrophic, single event, but it's a slow, debilitating decay of the consumer's spending power. The economic chokehold of this debt is tangible. It prevents first-time home buying, forces delays in starting a family, and makes saving for retirement feel impossible, the very financial milestones our 18 to 40 audience should be hitting. The return on investment (ROI) for many degrees is decreasing, while the interest rate you pay on the loan is climbing. Loan servicers often push borrowers into forbearance to avoid an official default statistic, which only delays the inevitable and accrues more interest, further hiding the true, escalating default rate from the public eye. Imagine a $50,000 loan taken out in 2018 at 6.5% interest. With payments resuming, that borrower is seeing a significant, non-negotiable chunk of their income disappear. When millions of Americans can't afford a down payment or major purchases, the consumer-driven economy stops. The student loan crisis isn't solely about education, it's about the erosion of the American middle class's ability to participate in the consumer economy. And because these loans are often federally backed or heavily regulated, the financial failure is a direct line back to Washington, which makes it the single most politically sensitive topic they will never willingly amplify. Bomb number 2. The credit card concussion, the rate hike shock. The second bomb is the credit card concussion. Total credit card debt in the U.S. has just soared past $1.1 trillion, the highest level in U.S. history, with the lion's share of that balance being carried by our target demographic. This bomb is all about the toxic intersection of high inflation and high interest rates. When inflation began its aggressive climb, the purchasing power of the dollar dropped dramatically. This drop forced millions of consumers to put essential items, like groceries, gasoline, and utilities, onto high-interest credit cards just to make ends meet. This is what we call the necessity debt cycle, and it is crushing the working and middle class. The Federal Reserve's aggressive interest rate hikes, intended to fight inflation, have simultaneously caused the average credit card annual percentage rate (APR) to hit a record high, now sitting well above 20% for many borrowers. This is the two-edged sword of central bank policy. That 20% plus rate is a financial gravity well. Let's look at the numbers the banks want you to ignore. A revolving balance of $6,000, which is near the national average, at 24% APR, if you only pay the minimum payment, will take you over 20 years to pay off, and you will pay more in interest than the original debt itself. The credit card companies are effectively turning every high-interest cardholder into a lifetime, revolving revenue stream. The debt is financially engineered to make a profit from your inability to pay it off entirely each month. The enormous, now toxic, pool of revolving debt is the clearest indicator of consumer distress. It's a sign that the average American consumer is maxed out, living on a financial knife edge where one single emergency expense, one unexpected bill, can trigger a cascade of defaults. This is what the phrase, "it's happening again," means in the context of consumer finance. The average person, the engine of the U.S. economy, is running on fumes and credit. The banks are recording record profits from these interest payments, giving them zero incentive to ease up, and every incentive to keep consumers trapped in this cycle. See bomb number 3. The Auto Loan Accelerator, the underwater asset approximately $600 words. The final piece of this toxic puzzle is the auto loan sector, with total U.S. debt now over $1.6 trillion. This debt is uniquely dangerous because it's tied to a rapidly depreciating asset. The very moment you drive the car off the lot, it loses value, but your loan balance does not. The Auto Loan Accelerator was fueled by two factors: low interest rates during the pandemic and subsequent supply chain issues that artificially inflated used and new car prices. This resulted in an average new car payment soaring past $700 per month. Think about that figure. It is more than many Americans pay for rent or a mortgage in some areas. But the true danger is the trend of the ultra-long-term car loans, the 72-month, 84-month, and even 96-month contracts. These are not financial products designed to help you save money. They are designed solely to sell the sticker price by focusing the buyer on a lower monthly payment rather than the total cost and true length of the debt. When you take out an 8-year loan on a car, you are financially shackled to a depreciating asset for nearly a decade. For the first several years of a long-term loan, you are dangerously underwater, meaning you owe the lender significantly more than the car is worth. If you total the car tomorrow, the insurance payout won't cover the loan balance, and you would be required to pay the difference out of pocket just to walk away from a car you no longer own. The most chilling signal of the looming crisis is the data on this sector. Delinquency rates on these auto loans are now higher than they were during the peak of the 2008 financial crisis. This is a clear, unambiguous signal that the working and middle class are being squeezed to their absolute financial limit. They are taking on massive, long-term, high-interest debt burdens to own a necessity. The banks and auto financiers, just like the mortgage lenders of the past, are simply repackaging the same bad debt practices that broke the housing market a decade ago. It's the same old recipe for disaster, with a new name. 3. The echoes of 2008, the mechanism of collapse. To understand the present danger, we must look at the blueprint of the past. The 2008 global financial crisis was triggered by the failure of a cascade of subprime mortgages. What made them systemically dangerous was not the individual defaults, but the packaging of that debt. The complex, confusing, and falsely graded financial products known as collateralized debt obligations (CDOs). Today, the names have changed, but the game is identical. We are now dealing with what we call sub-consumer loans, the riskier segments of long-term auto loans, high-balance credit cards, and student loans without clear economic return. The mechanism of collapse is the same: securitization. This is how banks transfer risk. They take thousands of these smaller, riskier debts, auto loans, credit cards, student loans, bundle them all into massive, complex financial products, and sell them to large institutional investors, pension funds, retirement accounts, and international investment banks. These new products are called asset-backed securities (ABS). This process transfers the inherent risk from the original lender, the bank, to the global investment market, creating distance and, more importantly, hiding the rot of the underlying consumer distress. The narrative sold to investors is that the individual debt is small, diverse, and therefore, the entire package is safe. This is the lie that nobody is talking about. Because when you have record high delinquencies in all three sectors simultaneously, student loans, credit cards, and auto loans, the diversification no longer works. When the financial pressure on the American consumer reaches a tipping point, a large chunk of those underlying assets will fail at once, just like the housing market did in 2008. The investors who bought the safe ABS will take catastrophic losses. The banks who facilitated the original loans will see their capital reserves dwindle. The ultimate result is a seizing up of the credit market, the very lifeblood of our economy, which is exactly what happened in 2008. The financial elite have already securitized and sold off the risk, and they are now praying the bomb goes off in someone else's hands, a retirement fund, a municipal bond fund, or an overseas bank. But as we learned with the housing crisis, in a hyper-connected global financial system, the bomb always finds its way back home. The current market indicators that mirror 2008 are chilling. The rapid decline in the market value of the collateral, used cars, the unprecedented surge in consumer delinquency rates across the board, and the fact that most people are focused on the stock market, the symptom of economic health, and ignoring the debt market, the true disease. Your financial future relies on you understanding this mechanism. The debt that is crippling you is being used to create profits for Wall Street, and the only way to stop the cycle is to take that debt back out of the financial machine. Why? Nobody's talking about it, the silence of self-interest. The title of this video is, It's Happening Again and Nobody's Talking About It, and it's time to explain the incentive structure behind the silence. The reason the major news networks and political leaders have buried this story under endless debates about inflation and interest rates is because those are only the symptoms, not the core disease. The silence is not an accident, it is an orchestrated quiet, a collective, systemic cover-up designed to protect established powers and their profits. Let's begin with the media's conflict of interest. Major news organizations rely heavily on massive advertising revenue from the financial institutions that issue this toxic debt: the banks, the loan servicers, and the credit card companies. Running a primetime exposé on the predatory nature of 25% APR credit card debt or the ruinous structure of 8-year auto loans is a direct threat to their entire business model. Therefore, they focus the narrative on the Fed and inflation, broad, abstract concepts, rather than the painful, micro-level reality of the average American household budget. They report the data as news, but never perform an honest analysis of the systemic failure. The powerful financial players, who have built a second house of cards since 2008, will not fund the platform that exposes their scheme. Next, consider the political incentive. The political class has a monumental motive to keep the debt narrative quiet. The student loan crisis is a direct reflection of years of failed federal policy that allowed college tuition to balloon unchecked. The credit card and auto loan debt spikes are a clear sign of a struggling economy under their current watch, proving that the average person is worse off. To admit the true scale of the crisis would be to admit legislative and regulatory failure. They would much rather pass the blame onto global forces, or consumer behavior, than take accountability for the collapsing financial system they maintain. Silence is a form of political self-preservation. Finally, we arrive at the bank's golden goose. The truth is, the major banks are currently recording record profits. Why? Because the interest rates they are charging on all forms of consumer debt are at historic highs, and the overall debt balances are at historic highs. You are the profit model. High interest rates and massive, revolving debt balances are their most lucrative products right now. A public panic and a sudden, concerted effort by millions of consumers to pay off their high-rate debt would immediately crater their future profitability, which is the last thing they want. Your financial stress is their income statement's biggest success story. They don't want you informed, they want you compliant. They want you focused on the latest political scandal while the debt bomb beneath you gets bigger, and their asset-backed securities continue to pay out. The goal of Smart Dollar Guide is to be your guide through this noise. We are going to shine a light on the truth, not to create fear, but to give you the clarity and the tools to opt out of their collapsing system and regain your financial power. The Smart Dollar Shield, your 7-step action plan for financial freedom. Fear without a plan is useless. Knowledge without action is a waste. You now know the problem and the intentional silence surrounding it. It's time to take control. This is the Smart Dollar Shield, your 7-step plan to not only survive this looming debt crisis but to thrive in the new economy that emerges on the other side. This plan is designed specifically for the 18 to 40-year-old in the US who has been hit hardest by the necessity debt cycle. Step 1. The emergency credit freeze. Stop the bleeding. The first step is a financial tourniquet. You must immediately stop your ability to take on new, toxic debt. You cannot stop the bleeding while you're still cutting yourself. This means implementing an emergency credit freeze. This is a literal lock on your file that prevents you, or anyone else, from opening a new credit card, taking out an auto loan, or applying for any new high-interest debt product. The process is simple. Go to the websites of the 3 major credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and initiate a security freeze. This action is free by federal law. The psychological power of this move is immense. It forces a mandatory pause on any new credit decision, which is enough time for you to ask the essential question: is this purchase worth financial ruin? The goal is to build a wall against the most toxic debt in the world right now, consumer revolving debt. For the Smart Dollar Guide audience, this is the first crucial move to break the habit of financing immediate gratification. The philosophy is simple: if you can't pay for it twice, you can't afford it once. Implement the freeze today, and you have instantly reduced your personal risk profile by 50%. Step 2. The high-rate decapitation targeted debt attack. The credit card concussion has given your lenders an APR of 20%, 25%, or even 30%. This is the enemy's strongest weapon, and your second step is the high-rate decapitation, an aggressive, single-minded attack on the debt with the highest interest rate. You must employ the mathematically superior debt avalanche method, where you list all your debts from highest APR to lowest. Every single spare dollar, every penny from a side hustle, every bonus, goes to that single highest rate debt. While you make minimum payments on everything else, you are hyper-focused on killing the debt that is stealing the most of your future income. But you must be smarter than the bank. When you make an extra payment, you must call your loan servicer or use the online portal to specify that the payment is to be applied to the principal only. This stops the compounding effect immediately and ensures your sacrifice is maximally effective. The banks deliberately make this difficult because they don't want you to do it, but this targeted, mathematical approach is the fastest way out of the high-rate trap, which is the epicenter of the looming crisis. Step 3. The 4-Wall Protection Fund crisis proofing. During a financial crisis, the most dangerous thing that can happen is an unexpected expense. The emergency room visit, the sudden car repair, the surprise tax bill. These events immediately push the already stressed American consumer back into the hands of the credit card companies. Your third step is to build the 4-Wall Protection Fund. This is a small, but critically important, safety net of $1,000 to $2,000 specifically dedicated to protecting your 4 essential needs: food, shelter, transportation, and utilities. This is the amount that typically causes an already stressed budget to spiral into new debt. You must set this money aside in a highly liquid, separate account, ideally a high-yield savings account (HYSA), so your cash is working for you. This fund is not for vacations or a new TV, it is your single most important financial insurance policy. Once you have this fund secured, you are no longer a victim of a minor crisis, you are financially resilient enough to handle the punches without the risk of adding fuel to the credit card debt bomb. Step 4. The Income Multiplier Protocol. Diversify your earning. In a shaky economy, your primary job is a single point of failure. Your fourth step is the Income Multiplier Protocol, the active process of generating more cash flow to attack your debt faster. Debt elimination is a two-sided coin, cutting expenses and increasing income. Increasing income is the most powerful wealth-building tool because it has no theoretical limit. You should immediately begin exploring monetizing a skill, leveraging a side hustle, or, most effectively, negotiating a raise at your current job using the Smart Dollar Guide's proven negotiation scripts. Every dollar from this extra income stream bypasses your normal budget and goes directly to the high-rate decapitation target. Think of your time not as a fixed hourly rate, but as a weapon you can point at your debt. The harder you work on this protocol now, the faster you achieve financial zero. This step is about empowerment. You are taking control of your income, and thus, your timeline to freedom. Step 5. The housing and auto de-risking, the big budget fix. You cannot fix a leaky bucket by only pouring water into it. The most massive leaks in the average 18 to 40-year-old budget are housing and auto costs. Your fifth step is the housing and auto de-risking. For your auto debt, if you have an ultra-long-term, high-interest auto loan where you are underwater, the painful truth may be to sell the car, downsize, and buy a reliable vehicle with cash. This is a short-term pain for long-term gain. For housing, your monthly payment should adhere to the Smart Dollar 25% rule. Your mortgage payment or rent should be no more than 25% of your take-home pay. If you are far above that, you must aggressively explore downsizing, getting a roommate, or moving to a lower-cost area. Your two biggest liabilities, your car and your home, must be fixed, or the debt treadmill will never stop. This step requires courage because it means sacrificing status and convenience for stability and financial peace. Step 6. The investment blackout. Debt over stocks. This is a controversial but necessary step for this specific moment. Your sixth step is the investment blackout. You must pause all non-401k investment until your high-rate debt is cleared. When you have credit card debt at 25% APR, you are getting a guaranteed 25% return by paying that debt off. No stock market return, no matter how good, is guaranteed, and most cannot consistently beat the guaranteed 25% return of eliminating that toxic liability. Therefore, every spare penny that isn't building your four-wall fund or covering minimums should go toward debt. We are also cautioning against maxing out a Roth IRA or a brokerage account while carrying this high-interest debt because that money is being stolen by your creditors. The only exception to the blackout is getting the full employer match on your 401k, that is free money and you should take it. But beyond the match, the focus is singular: eliminate the bomb first. Step 7. The retirement relaunch. Long-term wealth build. Congratulations. By the time you reach step 7, you have completed the high-rate decapitation and built your four-wall protection fund. The toxic debt is gone, and you are no longer a victim of the system. Your final, most exciting step is the retirement relaunch. The money that was formerly trapped by high interest payments is now freed up and ready to be an engine of generational wealth. Now is the time to restart maxing out your retirement accounts, your 401k, your Roth IRA, and your HSA. This is where you transform from a financial survivor into a generational wealth builder. The money you were paying to the credit card companies now goes to your future, compounded tax advantage growth. You have escaped the silent crisis and positioned yourself to thrive in the new economy. This is the moment where the Smart Dollar Guide philosophy fully pays off. You used your intelligence and discipline to avoid the collapse and now you are poised for long-term, stress-free prosperity. The conclusion and call to action. We have spent the last 35 minutes breaking the silence on the single biggest, most protected financial threat to the 18 to 40-year-old American, the triple threat of toxic student, credit card, and auto loan debt. You now know that it is happening again. The confluence of these factors is a corrosive force designed to enrich the few while financially paralyzing the majority. They want you to stay quiet, stressed, and compliant in the revolving debt cycle. But you now possess the truth and the plan. You have the Smart Dollar Shield, the emergency credit freeze to protect your future, the high-rate decapitation to eliminate the threat, and the four-wall protection fund to ensure you never fall victim to the small crisis that triggers the big one. The steps are simple, but the action is hard, and it must begin today. Don't let this be just another video you watched. Let this be the day you drew a permanent line in the financial sand. This channel, Smart Dollar Guide, exists to break this silence and empower you to win. We are a community of financial rebels who believe in true, debt-free wealth and generational prosperity. If you have been financially stressed, if you've seen the interest rates rise, and if you believe that nobody is talking about the real crisis, then I need you to do 3 things right now. First, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss another warning or a step in your financial freedom journey. Second, leave a comment below and tell me, what is your highest rate debt? We are breaking the silence, and your open admission will encourage the next person to take action. Finally, your next step is to secure your foundation. Click on the video now appearing on your screen, the 5 fatal flaws of your bank's savings account and where to move your cash now. Start step 3 of the Smart Dollar Shield today and begin building your four-wall protection fund. The time for decisive action is not tomorrow. It's now. Build your shield. Win your freedom. I'll see you in the next video. You now understand the size of the storm, the $4.4 trillion consumer debt bomb and the systemic silence surrounding it. You have the Smart Dollar Shield 7 steps. But before you can successfully deploy that shield, you have to understand where your personal war is being lost every single month. For the American consumer between 18 and 40, the battle for your budget is typically lost in just 3 financial arenas: subscription creep, the financing illusion, and lifestyle inflation. These are the stealth traps, the silent assassins that prevent you from ever having enough cash flow to execute the high-rate decapitation or build the 4-wall protection fund. Let's dissect the first trap: subscription creep. The average U.S. household now pays for over 15 monthly subscriptions, often totaling $200 to $300 a month. Think about that. $300 a month is $3,600 a year simply disappearing on services you rarely use. The streaming services, the app upgrades, the meal kits, the monthly boxes, the forgotten gym memberships, they are all designed to be small enough to escape your notice but significant enough to bleed your budget dry. They create an illusion of necessity and convenience. The secret is that the companies don't want you to audit them. Your first tactical mission, before starting step 1 of the shield, is to perform a brutal, surgical review of every single recurring monthly payment. Download the last 3 months of your bank and credit card statements, highlight every single recurring charge, and ask one simple question: does this charge directly move me toward my goal of becoming debt-free? If the answer is no, you must hit the cancel button. Every $10 you recover from this creep is a guaranteed 20% return when you throw it at your high-interest credit card debt. This isn't about giving up everything fun, it's about eliminating the waste that's keeping you poor. The second trap is the financing illusion. This is where the toxicity of the auto loan accelerator meets your everyday shopping habits. For our audience, this is the psychological trap that promises instant gratification in exchange for a tiny, manageable monthly payment. You see it everywhere. Buy this couch for $50 a month for 48 months, or get the new phone with 0% APR financing. The key phrase they use is low monthly payment. They condition you to ignore the total price tag. The danger of the financing illusion is twofold. First, it normalizes debt for non-essential goods, blurring the line between a necessity and a want. Second, if you miss a single payment on that 0% APR couch, the financing agreement often triggers a deferred interest clause, instantly backcharging you 29% interest on the entire original amount. You think you're getting a deal, but you're actually taking on a ticking time bomb of debt risk. The Smart Dollar Guide philosophy on financing is absolute. If you cannot pay for the item in full today, you do not buy the item. Period. That includes furniture, electronics, tires, or anything that depreciates or is not a dire necessity. Break the illusion and pay cash for everything outside of your primary shelter. The final and most insidious trap is lifestyle inflation. This is the slow, quiet killer of wealth, particularly for the high-achieving 25 to 40-year-old. It happens when your income increases, but instead of using that extra money to attack debt or build savings, your spending simply rises to meet your new income level. You get a raise, so you immediately upgrade your apartment, lease a slightly nicer car, or start eating out more frequently. You maintain the same level of financial stress, but at a higher salary. This is often driven by social pressure, the need to keep up with peers or project an image of success. The key to combating lifestyle inflation is the delayed gratification rule. For every raise or bonus you receive, at least 80% of that new money must be immediately directed toward debt elimination or savings, and only the remaining 20% can be used to improve your quality of life. This discipline is what separates the perpetually struggling middle-income earner from the person who is on the path to financial freedom. You must commit to living on last year's salary for the purpose of debt repayment. Remember, the banks and the system want you to inflate your lifestyle because it makes you a more reliable, high-yield customer. Your mission is to defy the social pressure, embrace the temporary delay of gratification, and use every extra dollar as a weapon against the 3 debt bombs we discussed. Before you begin step 1 of the Smart Dollar Shield, you must neutralize these 3 high-cost traps. If you don't plug these leaks, the subscription creep, the financing illusion, and lifestyle inflation, the money you work so hard to earn will simply flow out, and you will never gain the momentum required for your high-rate decapitation strategy to succeed. This isn't just theory, it's the proven methodology for creating the cash flow necessary to fight a systemic crisis. This is where your financial freedom begins. You have broken the silence. You have seen the danger of the 3 debt bombs. You have neutralized the leaks of subscription creep, the financing illusion, and lifestyle inflation. Now, it's time to act. This section is your 90-day execution plan for the first 3 critical steps of the Smart Dollar Shield. This is where we move from theory to reality, and where you build the momentum that breaks your debt cycle forever. Phase 1. The Credit Freeze and Budget Blueprint, days 1 to 7. The first 7 days are about setting your foundation and drawing your financial battle lines. Day 1. The Emergency Credit Freeze. You must immediately execute step 1. Log into the sites for Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion and place a security freeze. You are locking yourself out of toxic debt. This is a psychological shift as much as a physical one. You are telling the system, I am closed for business. Day 2 to 7. The Budget Blueprint. You cannot decapitate the highest rate debt, step 2, until you know exactly where your money is going. This is not a casual review, this is a financial autopsy. You need to create a zero-based budget, ZBB. The concept is simple but powerful. Every single dollar you expect to earn this month must be assigned a job before the month begins. Income minus expenses must equal 0. If you earn $4,000, you must allocate $4,000 to expenses, savings, and debt. You're not just tracking, you're planning your income. Use a tool, a simple spreadsheet, or a dedicated budgeting app, to categorize every dollar. The goal is to uncover the cash flow surplus, the extra money you can throw at your highest rate debt. For most people, the ZBB uncovers hundreds of dollars they didn't know they had, hidden in coffee, impulsive shopping, and unexamined bills. You are turning those hidden dollars into an attack weapon. B. Phase 2. The 4-Wall Protection Fund Sprint, days 8 to 45. With your cash flow surplus identified, the next 37 days are dedicated to securing your life with Step 3, the 4-Wall Protection Fund. You are sprinting to accumulate $1,000 to $2,000 dedicated to your 4 core needs: food, shelter, transportation, and utilities. This small cushion stops the debt spiral that ruins most people. How do you sprint? You apply the surplus from your budget blueprint and you initiate the scavenger hunt. You are hunting for one-time cash injections. Sell unused items on Facebook Marketplace or eBay, old electronics, clothes, furniture. Cash out unused gift cards. Work extra shifts or take on small gig economy tasks for 45 days. Every dollar of this scavenged money goes straight into a dedicated high-yield savings account HYSA. The key is separation. This money must not sit in your checking account, where you might spend it. It must be in a separate account, earning interest, and ready only for a true emergency that threatens your 4 walls. Achieving this goal in 45 days gives you financial momentum, proving to yourself that you can win. This cushion is the financial piece that allows you to confidently focus on the aggressive debt attack ahead. C. Phase 3. High-rate decapitation momentum, days 46 to 90. With the foundation set and your cash flow secured, the final 45 days are all about Step 2, the high-rate decapitation. You have identified your debt with the highest APR, the one that's stealing the most of your future. This is the target. You take your established cash flow surplus, the money you freed up from subscription creep, and any leftover scavenger hunt money, and you throw it all at the principal of that single debt. You are using the debt avalanche method, which is the mathematical winner. Imagine you have a $5,000 credit card at 28% APR. Your minimum payment is $120, but your budget now shows you can afford to pay $500 per month. You are paying minimums on everything else, and applying the extra $380 to the principal of this 28% card. Crucially, you are making that payment twice a month, not once. Dividing the payment in half and paying every 2 weeks subtly reduces the average daily balance, saving you a fraction more on interest. And every time you pay extra, you specify, apply to principal only. This is the moment of maximum power. By day 90, you will have seen a massive reduction in the balance of your most toxic debt. This success builds the psychological fuel you need to keep going. The first 90 days are the hardest, but they create the financial resilience you need to withstand the systemic stress of the coming economic pressure. You are now stronger than the average consumer and no longer a reliable profit center for the banks. You have deployed your shield. X. The Great Financial Reset. Becoming a generational wealth builder. The smart dollar shield doesn't end when the high-rate debt is gone. That is merely the end of the defensive war. The final phase is the Great Financial Reset, the shift from a debtor to an investor, from a consumer to a generational wealth builder. This is where you deploy steps 6 and 7, transforming the money you used to pay the banks into wealth for your family. A. The end of the investment blackout. Once the highest rate debt is gone, you have conquered the greatest financial threat to your future. You can now end the investment blackout. Step 6. The money you were paying to the credit card company, that $500 per month from our example, is now yours. This is the debt-free dividend. This dividend doesn't go back into your lifestyle, it is immediately directed toward your long-term wealth, triggering the retirement relaunch. Step 7. This transition is the most satisfying part of the shield. You are effectively taking money that was generating a 28% return for a bank and redirecting it to a vehicle that will generate wealth for you. B. Maxing out your tax-advantaged accounts. Your new mission is to max out your tax-advantaged accounts. This is the core of the Great Reset. First, max out your 401k to the annual limit. This money grows tax-deferred, and it lowers your taxable income today. For our 18 to 40-year-old audience, this compounding power over 20 to 30 years is astronomical. Second, fully fund your Roth IRA. This is a powerhouse for future wealth, as all the growth and withdrawals in retirement are completely tax-free. Third, fully fund your health savings account HSA if you qualify. This is the single greatest retirement account in existence. Contributions are tax-deductible, it grows tax-free, and withdrawals for medical expenses are tax-free. It's the triple tax advantage account, and you must use it. By redirecting the debt-free dividend into these accounts, you are leveraging the most powerful wealth-building tools the government allows, and doing so while your debt payments are zero. C. The power of generational wealth. The true power of this reset is generational. When you, the 18 to 40-year-old, break the cycle of high-interest debt, you are changing the financial future of your children, and even your parents. The average American is stuck in this cycle, and the result is generational poverty. The financial struggle is passed down. By building your smart dollar shield, you are building the first debt-free generation in your family line. This means you will have the ability to pay for your children's education in cash, eliminating the student loan mirage for them. You will have the capital to invest in income-generating assets, not just depreciating liabilities like cars and furniture. This stability makes you immune to the broader economic forces of the silent debt crisis because you are no longer relying on the credit market. You become an owner of assets, not a renter of money. This is the difference between simply surviving the crisis and actually winning the reset. D. Case study. Sarah's $18,000 breakthrough. Let me give you a final, Concrete example of how this shield works. Meet Sarah, a 32-year-old project manager in Denver. She had a good salary, but was trapped by the three traps. She had $18,000 in credit card debt at a 24.9% APR, a 72-month auto loan, and a handful of forgotten subscriptions. She was the perfect customer for the banks. She found Smart Dollar Guide and took action. Phase 1. She implemented the credit freeze and discovered a $650 cash flow surplus through her ZBB and canceling subscription creep. Phase 2. She sold an old Peloton and some camera gear on Facebook Marketplace for $1,500, which, combined with her surplus, immediately funded her four-wall protection fund. Phase 3. She dedicated the entire $650 surplus to her $18,000 card using the high-rate decapitation method. She stopped investing, only taking the 401k match. She attacked the card for 27 months. After 2 years, that toxic $18,000 debt was gone. Her old minimum payment was $450. Now, that $450 per month is the debt-free dividend. She immediately directed that money into her Roth IRA and HSA. She is now free of the banks, insulated from the systemic debt collapse, and actively building wealth. She stopped surviving and started winning. This is the power of the Smart Dollar Shield. This is your goal. With that said, thanks for watching and until next time.